Hello, this is Myra Elaine on the Buying Space channel. Today I'm continuing my series on the four Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I am in the book of Luke. Luke was a physician. He also wrote the book of Acts. And I'm in chapter 5, starting in verse 12. Jesus heals a man with leprosy. In one of the villages, Jesus met a man with an advanced case of leprosy. When the man saw Jesus, he bowed with his face to the ground, begging to be healed. Lord, he said, if you are willing, can you heal me and make me clean? Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said. Be healed. And instantly the leprosy disappeared. When Jesus instructed him not to tell anyone what had happened, he said, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. But despite Jesus' instructions, the report of his power spread even faster, and vast crowds came to hear him preach and to be healed of the disease. But Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness for prayer. We are all sinners and have come short of the glory of God. We are all unclean. Under the old law, sacrifices had to be made after you went through a period of being unclean. And some of the things that could make you unclean were touching a dead body. Women, if you had your menstrual cycle, while you were in your menstrual cycle, you were somewhat socially shunned and not allowed to participate, as if you had touched a dead body. There were other things that would make you unclean in the sight of the temple and God and people in general. And during your time of uncleanliness, you would be shunned. So if you had a disease like leprosy, or even anything that was contagious that was not visible like leprosy, you were not allowed to participate in society. And lepers actually had colonies where they lived together to survive. And to be cured of leprosy was unheard of. This was a true miracle Jesus performed. He performed so many miracles. But the priests and people in general would not have anything to do with people with leprosy. They wouldn't go around the unclean. There's a story in the Bible. It's right before Janus's daughter was resurrected from the dead. This woman came up and she'd had a period for years, and she touched his robe and was healed of it. And then she was able to participate in society and get married and do all the things that women did in those days as productive women in society. Have a household, have all those things. Because if you were unclean for any reason, you weren't able to do those things. And lepers were not allowed to do that. And I wanted to talk about, of course, I'm not advocating anyone put their health at risk. But there are people in our society that are shunned, that are treated worse than others. And I propose that you be like Jesus and you treat everyone with equality. And I am quite frankly disturbed by how LGBTQ people are being treated, especially transsexuals. They are human beings, and just because they're transsexual does not mean they are a threat to your children. It does not mean they are perverts. It does not mean they are being defiant. They are people trying to live out their lives just like you and me. They are people who identify with a different gender and want to be another gender. Other than that, they are not different from us. They love people, they work, they have to provide for themselves and their families if they have a family. And they are not inherently evil or wrong or more sinful than we are. We are all equal in God's eyes. We all sin. And I don't really look at it as a sin to identify with another sex. We are all combinations of masculine and feminine. The people out there, the women that go ultra pink and ultra femme, scare me. And the men that want the six-pack and the pickup truck and the other six-pack and all of this and hunt and just want to be completely and totally masculine, they're scary too. There are men out there that are nurses that are not transsexual, and there are women out there that are truck drivers. We don't think a thing about that, do we? Back in the 80s, I graduated with a degree in criminal justice and ran a mail route. And back then, it was considered weird that I was doing those things. I was a trailblazer as a feminist, and I lived in West Virginia, and this was unheard of. When I was a little girl, my Aunt Bessie told me I was at her yard sale, and I was looking at a camera, and she said, "Oh, those are men's things." What ridiculousness have we gotten to? That when a tennis star, Miss Williams, is criticized because she's too masculine, she's athletic, she has to have those wonderful rippling muscles to play tennis to the level she does. And here people are criticizing her for the very thing that she's good at. That's part of who she is. And she didn't choose the label of whether that was masculine or feminine. She wasn't making a point about gender by being muscular. She was just working out. She was just being a good tennis player. I mean, I believe in being good at whatever you are. And she was a tennis player, and she was being good at it. But no matter how good you are and how hard you strive, there are going to be people out there that are going to criticize you. And swaths of people sometimes will criticize you. And it's okay. You pray to God for their souls, for being backbiting and jealous and whatever other emotions cause that. And you go on. But honestly, I don't find it hypocrisy that I have a non-binary child and I am an ally to the LGBTQ community and I'm Christian, because the Son of God that walked this earth, he believed in equality. He didn't shun anyone. People that he was not supposed to interact with socially, he interacted with them. And he was criticized for it. He sat down and ate with the Pharisees and Sadducees, his very enemies. He touched a leper. He let an unclean woman touch him. And put oil on him. And a prostitute, or former prostitute. What message do you get from that? That Jesus Christ in Jewish society interacted with all these people that he was supposed to shun. He accepts everyone. We are all the children of God. We as Americans don't have license on God. We are not the chosen ones. The Jewish people are the chosen ones. Somebody put a post somewhere they shouldn't have about one of these people that, a preacher, I won't say who he is, that goes around and takes the prophets' words and revelation in the Bible and pre-Canaanite society, of all things, and throws them all together and puts all those prophecies on the United States. These prophecies in here that say they are for the chosen people are for the Hebrews, the Israelis, the Jews. These prophecies are not for America. America is not Israel. So I'm really hoping to hear less of that because, which I won't, it'll just increase. But it's a path that we as Americans shouldn't go down. For decades now, there has been a trend for Americans to think we have license on God and that we're the chosen people. We are not the chosen people. We are Gentiles. Unless you're, if you're American, you're Jewish. But overall, these preachers that are talking about this are mainly Protestant and conservative preachers that are taking on and building their ministry based upon a lie, which is we're oppressed. We are not oppressed as American Christians. We're really not. And spew hatred and divide people by playing the victim like we're Jews. And not just any Jews, Jews in Germany. Like, oh my goodness. You know, we have it great here in America. Just open your eyes. I don't want to hear any more about how empty the food shelves are. We have plenty of food available to us. People in power have you panicked. And part of that panic is the Bible is being used to make you fearful. The Bible is the joyful book of God, and it's about love and acceptance. And if you don't believe me, read what Jesus did. He touched a leper. He talked to a leper. In his society, he didn't have to do anything but walk to the other side of the street when this leper came by. Look at what Jesus did and said as your example. If you watch that 6 o'clock news or whenever you watch your news now, and you end up fearful of this group or that group, know that that's gaslighting. Know that that's social control. And if you have any fear, any doubt, look to the Bible, to the Word of God, for the love of God, for the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on that cross. And you won't be fearful. You'll know that you're a child of God. And you'll know that you're not supposed to hate other people. That you're supposed to accept all people. You're supposed to minister to all people as a Christian. Y'all have a wonderful and blessed day.